Did you know that there is a barbecue restaurant that has a Michelin Star? And this is their burger. A half-pound smoked hunk of meat in between a toasty bun.
A big thanks to Borniak smokers for sponsoring this video.
If you didn't know this yet, barbecue is booming and there are a lot of restaurants popping up all over the place. One of them is Leroy and Lewis, and they have been building up their name and fame over the years. Recently they have gotten a Michelin Star, and for good reasons, because they're kind of changing barbecue as it is. They have their traditional style of barbecue, but they also have new cuts of barbecue. I'm talking about their beef cheeks, their smoked top blade. And that's why I've got this all set up, because we are going to make a smoked Michelin Star burger. Diving right into it with the meat. Now they use trimming of their briskets since they smoke a lot of briskets. However, briskets are super expensive and chuck is just a little cheaper. But personally, I love it even better for burgers. So that's what I'm gonna use. What I'm looking for is an 80 to 20% fat to meat ratio. And as you can see, we got plenty of fat and plenty of meat that's going to do the job for us. I'm going to cube this up for our meat grinder, and I'm on the lookout for pieces of silver skin that don't do well in the meat grinder. Just like this piece right here, as well as this piece right here. That is not a layer of fat, but that is silver skin. Now I'm going to grind it up, and I'm going to start with a coarse grind. Now I've got a beautiful coarse ground meat, and you see the 80 to 20% beef to fat ratio. That worked out perfect. However, if I pull this together in a burger, it is quite coarse in texture. And that means once we start cooking it, it's going to fall apart on us. And therefore, I'm going to give it another grind with a finer mesh on the grinder. There we go for the second grind. Just let it drop in, and you can see how fine it is now. That's going to make all the difference in the texture of the burger. Now I got myself a sheet of baking paper. Spread it out, and we're going to shape the burger patties. These are going to be half-pound burger patties. And the half-pound is like a serious amount of meat. That is like a nice chunky steak. Now, I'm not gonna wait, I'm just gonna eyeball it. Now I'm gonna shape them by hand. If I just grab a piece and I squeeze it, you can already see what happens to the texture. You see how fine that texture is, and once you squeeze it, you don't want it to become soft like dough for a sausage, but you do want that thickness, you do want that consistency of that really strong burger. See, even if I pull it now, it's not going to fall apart on me. And I need that if I'm going to be smoking these burgers. A little bit of kneading first, shape them. Now look at that. I'm going to weigh these afterwards to see if I'm at a half-pound or not. But it could be my stomach speaking, because I'm getting kind of hungry. Now I can easily cut the paper up to individual burgers. I'm really curious if I actually made half-pound burgers or that they are a little bigger. I got one that's a little smaller here because that was the end of the meat. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 burgers. Moment of truth. Oh, they're 42 grams over. That's actually not bad, not bad. Time to season the burgers, and therefore I'll be using the PITMASTERX Texas seasoning. That is very close to the seasoning of Leroy and Lewis. I'm gonna put on a nice thick layer because this is a lot of meat. Get it in there. I'm gonna season the sides. There we go. Look at that. That's looking beautiful. Make sure you season the sides as well, because that is what you're going to see when it's on the burger. Now there's one thing I'd like you to check, and that is the size of the buns. Yes, I use pre-packed buns. Yes, I use pre-made buns. Of course, you can make your own if you want to. It's a lot of work, I warn you. But I'm going to use comparable buns to what Leroy and Lewis use. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure for size to make sure that all the burger patties are the right size. So once I start smoking them and they're going to shrink a little bit, they're going to be perfect. So if you're measuring, the burger patty should stick out compared to the bun. Not too much, just a little ½ centimeter edge, a 1/4 inch. I'm going to switch on my BX smoker, set it to temperature, and I'm going to be smoking at a temperature of 140 degrees Celsius, and then set it to smoke. Now this is an electric smoker, and that means we got wood chips right here in the tray. I'm using some beet this time, and all I need to do now is get the tray out. I'm going to put the burger patties on the tray, flip them, there we go. And now this goes in the smoker. Close it, and we're going to check back in half an hour. In the meantime, I'm going to make the signature beet barbecue sauce by L&L. So I'm going to put in some sugar, 1/3 cup, a little bit of salt, and that recipe requires ancho chili powder. Well, that is hard to come by here. We do get dried ancho chilies. However, it's still quite difficult to get it, grind it up. So therefore I'm going to replace it with chipotle flakes. I'm going to put that in my coffee grinder, put the lid on, and then I'm going to need about 4 teaspoons of this. 2 teaspoons of granulated garlic powder, half a teaspoon of paprika powder, half a teaspoon of cayenne pepper, a 1/3 cup of Worcestershire sauce, Worcestershire sauce, whichever pronunciation you prefer. Now, of course, Leroy and Lewis have their own YouTube channel and they explain how they make their sauce. This is just my European or Dutch variation of it with the ingredients that I can get around here. And 1/3 cup of apple cider vinegar. I'm gonna bring that to a boil, let the sugar dissolve. Then it's time to add a cup of ketchup, 2/3 of mustard. I'm gonna need a little bit black pepper, but I'm going to replace that with the Texas seasoning. It has some salt, garlic powder, onion powder, black pepper. And then I'm going to need 4 tablespoons of beet juice. Well, beet juice is not something that is very common in supermarkets, I understand. You can buy beet powder online and then just add water to it and then makes it more common. But I have another solution. You see, there is such a thing as juice machines. Now, of course, you can buy beets anywhere, even pre-cooked beets. So we can make our own beet juice. All right, I have it set to not release the liquid. I'm going to open it up. There we go. I'm going to need 4 tablespoons. I'm going to need another one. Beet juice, baby. There we go. That's going to be enough. Shut this off. And of course, it doesn't get any better than fresh beet juice, so this will do the trick. Let me bring this back up to a boil. Now, I really wonder if they add the beet juice for color or if it's also for flavor. And while we wait for that, I'm going to check the temperature of my burgers. Woohoo! Yeah, baby. Let's measure these. They look freaking amazing. They're 53 degrees Celsius, which is absolutely perfect. 53. I'm going to shut it down right now. Stop the smoking, stop everything. Back to the sauce. Everything's boiling. Let's get that off. Now, of course, I'm also going to do a taste test to make sure that the sauce tastes as it should. You can see that we got a nice consistency, not too runny. Wow, that's good. It's on the spicy side, but it's really fresh and tasty, and this is awesome. Let's get the burgers out. Look at that. That is magnificent. We got a beautiful smoke color, and the smoke that comes off it, that really has that beautiful smoke experience. It's looking good. Now there's one more step involved cooking these burgers, and basically we're doing a reverse sear. So first the smoke, then a sear, and naturally, just like with a steak, in between we're going to let these rest. For the next step, of course, I'm going to take out the PITMASTERX hand polished cast iron pan. That's right, look at that. We got our own logo on the back. This is hand polished and it's freaking awesome. Now normally hand polish is super expensive. We made it in a way that we can actually have this for a reasonable price. All right, now I'm going to warm this up. If you need more information, by the way, on this pan, you can find it on our website, pitmasterx.com or shop.pitmasterx.com. Melt some butter in the pan because I am going to fry onions. It's one of the key ingredients for this burger, the topping that makes it all work out, a fried onion. And the cool thing is that Leroy's and Lewis used to do this in their smoker on a cast iron tray. So basically we're doing the exact same way they used to do it. Don't want too small of a size onion, otherwise it's just going to fade away on the burger. So it's fairly coarse chopped onion, but you still want to like square size. You don't want these large onion slices. That's going to ruin the experience somewhat. And one of the main reasons why you would need a hand polished cast iron pan is because of how smooth it is. Like it's a non-stick pan, but it's really not. Yeah, of course it's non-stick, but it doesn't have the negative effects of a non-stick pan. No PFAS in this pan, it's just cast iron. This onion is soft in the way I want to see it. It is still glazy, it doesn't fall apart, it's not mush. It still has that texture where if you bite into your burger, you're going to experience an actual onion being there. But it's not going to have that sharp, raw, oniony bite. I'm gonna set this aside, get the onions out of the pan, so we can actually move on to the next phase. Onto the next phase, which of course is searing the burgers. Look at how good they look. That's amazing. Now we already have the butter in the pan from the onions, so we're just gonna warm that up again and then get a good sear on these burgers. There we go. That sounds good. This is a really strong burner, lots of BTUs. That means if I get it too hot, it's just going to go over the smoke point and basically burn the burger. I want to prevent that. A little press to get a nice sear and then do the flip. There we go. 2 slices of American cheese. Make sure you let the cheese melt. Once the cheese melted, you can take it off and then keep that burger warm. Of course, we're going to toast the buns. Dunk in the bread, push it down, rotate the bun. Now it's time to put the sauce on the burger bun. But one thing they do at L&L is mix the barbecue beet sauce with mayonnaise 50-50. And that is just to make the barbecue sauce a little milder, like that. That looks really good. That now goes on the bun. And the patty goes on the bun, of course. On goes some onions. And of course, pickles. And that is your Michelin Star burger made at home. Now you can do it too. I'm gonna slice this burger open. Normally I wouldn't do that, but I just want to show you guys because this is the advantage of having a smoked burger over a regular grilled burger. Perfect edge to edge pink meat. Isn't that a beautiful sight? You see how we still have that nice dry toasty bun, a little bit of sauce dripping out underneath. Not too wet, but plenty juicy. There we go. See you guys in the next one. Don't forget the recipes on our website. And of course our seasoning and our pan is available in our shop. shop.pitmasterx.com. See you guys in the next one. Cheers.